Hi, I'm Sylvia Worsham. Welcome to Focus Fridays and welcome to this segment on the many faces of grief. Grief shows up very differently for people. I know from my 15-year-old son, he avoided making decisions all week by staying in his PJs, and that's how he dealt with the grief of losing our puppy Daisy. And for me, it was avoid being vulnerable. I avoid pain by hiding from people that I love. My friends didn't know what was really going on. I would put up my picture during Zoom meetings. I didn't want them to see my energy being so low. I avoided pain by doing that. And so grief has many faces, guys, and it doesn't mean that it's not just the loss of a loved one. During COVID-19, a lot of people have lost their job. A lot of people have lost marriages. Some people have lost loved ones, of course, because we're dealing with a pandemic. There's so many ways that grief shows up in our life. And one of the things that I always ask my coaching clients is, how are you avoiding the pain? Are you someone that avoids pain, or do you move towards pleasure when living your life? And when you go through loss, a lot of people avoid pain, and that's how grief shows up in their life. So I wanted to share 3 tips that were so critical, and I wish I'd known when I went through the loss of my first marriage, because I can relate to people that are getting divorced now, and they can relate to someone like me because I've lived through what they've lived through. And these turning points can be life-changing, guys. They can be totally life-changing. It's a matter of looking at it through a different lens and through the lessons that you're learning in life and the focus and how that applies in your life. So, at the time of the loss of my marriage, I was focused on what I didn't have. And because certainty had been pulled from me, I avoided pain by in essence, not dealing with it, by not asking for help. And I threw myself in the only thing that I could control in my life, and that was my work. I started working 50 to 60-hour work weeks, and of course that always comes with a consequence in life. I was a single mom to a young son, and those things all add up later. You pay for them later, basically. So the first coaching tip that I will share with you is understand how the law of focus works. Focus on what you gain from that turning point, from that loss. What did I gain from getting divorced? I gained finding my soulmate in Donnie. I gained having my daughter Vivian. I gained moving to Austin, Texas from South Texas. I gained all that. Had I not gotten divorced, I would have never gained that. So it's a matter of shifting your focus. Focus on what you gain. That's tip number 1. Number 2 is allow grief to go through the stages it needs to go through. When we try to control our grief, when we try to control our circumstances, when we seek certainty outside of ourselves in other external factors, we stay stuck in our circumstances longer because we have failed to face our fears and face our pain and work through that pain. So my biggest advice, my biggest tip here, and I wish I'd known this, was asking myself those hard questions. Like, why am I avoiding pain? What is it I'm so afraid of? And taking ownership in my role in the loss of that marriage, right? And working through those various stages of grief, allowing grief to come and allowing the emotion to release when it needs to release. It's your body's way of saying it needs to be released. That's the second tip. So go through the stages of grief. The third and final tip is ask for help. These are major losses, guys. When you lose a marriage, when you lose a loved one, when you lose a job, it can lead you down a very dark path. What's the point of going down that path alone? What's the point of that? There is no point in that, honestly. And the biggest mistake I made, and I'm sharing my vulnerability up front and center here with you guys, is I failed to ask for help. I stopped going to therapy. Because I thought I could handle it. I thought that if I asked for help, that was a failure in itself. Because I had grown up by immigrant parents who viewed asking for help as taboo. let me just say this here. The failure is not asking for help. That's the true failure. Together, you get further, guys. You get further in your life when you work in collaboration with others, when you ask for the help that you need, whether it be a coach, a therapist, an accountability partner, whatever works for you. But get help if you get to a point where you don't know what to do, where there's enormous blind spots. We all have them. It's okay to ask for help. In fact, it's highly recommended you ask for help. I'm Sylvia Worsham. I am your host of Focus Fridays. If you ever have a question that you want answered, that you want me to do a video on, I'm here to help you and navigate those major turning points. In fact, right now I'm writing my book on turning points. If there's a turning point that women have faced, because the book is for women, please comment below. I'd be more than happy to help you out in these very, very trying times. I'm a keynote speaker. I'm a turning points coach. Thank you so much for listening to today's segment on the many faces of grief. Have a wonderful week. I'll see you next week. Bye now.